Hey guys, my name is Scottie and thanks for joining me. Well, last week I tried to complete the 1 week 100 people sketching challenge. It's by Mark Holmes and Liz Steele. But unfortunately I left it to the last minute to try this. So I only had 1 day in the allotted time to try and sketch 100 people. The rules are quite loose and you don't need to sketch 100 people. But I thought it'd be fun to try and sketch 100 people in 1 day. So I want to share with you my adventure and also the top tips that I learned on sketching people in public. So I just packed my sketchbook and a couple of pens and I was ready to go. So to sketch 100 people in 1 day, I needed a place that was busy enough for the chances of seeing that many people in one place. So that meant me going into the centre of the Sydney CBD here in Australia. Looking back, it was a bit naive, but I calculated that if I sketched each person for about 2 minutes, I'd be home for lunch. I just had to find a super busy place where there were heaps of people milling about, walking past, waiting for a bus. Okay, you can see here I've arrived at Town Hall Station in the Sydney CBD. So I eventually decided on this park bench that was right next to the tram station, so I could draw people waiting for the tram, and also there were people walking past and people handing out leaflets. Now my biggest concern with sketching was actually how I was going to film it so I could show you guys. You can see here the contraption I was using to try and hold the camera. So it's just a standard mount that you can put on a tripod, and then I've put the camera strap, tied it around to try and fix it in place.
Drawing?
Yes, I'm sketching,
Oh my goodness.
I'm trying to draw 100 people in 1 day. I've done 7. 100.
드로잉을 한대요.
I was feeling a bit tense to begin with, but then this couple approached me who was standing there giving out leaflets, and they were interested in what I was doing, and they started a conversation, and they said they would pose for me to sketch. I really, in hindsight, should have done a bigger drawing here because I had more time, and I didn't realise that the whole rest of the day I wouldn't have a better opportunity to sketch someone than right now. So I did this little rush sketch, and they were very polite and they said they liked it, but the sketch was a very simple, rough sketch. So I started sketching here, people standing and giving out their leaflets to people walking past. The way I was sketching here was to sketch each main shape. So here the hat, and then the top, and just a simple placement where the arms are, and then the legs. The good thing about sketching these people here was that they didn't move away, so I could look back. But the bad thing was that they were continually rotating as people walked past. So they're never quite still all the time. So I'd look at them, get the basic shape in my mind, and then I'd have to look up just to see the details. But a lot of these sketching is made up from an image in my mind as I went. So then I turned my attention to people standing waiting for the tram. And that was a lot easier because people were often just standing in one position and they didn't turn as people walked past. So this person here, they're holding their phone in one hand and their hand is on the hip on the other. That was a great pose to sketch. This is a perfect example of finding someone standing very still, great pose, and then someone comes and sits right in front of him. So I had to move my head and try and get some of the details in, but he started to move away anyway. After a while I moved position to another bench around the other side, and I found these two here standing looking at their phones with their backpacks on. And adding backpacks adds a lot of interest, so I thought I'd be able to shade those in. So you can see I did the head, put the ear in so I know which way it's turned, then I did the shirt and the pants. It's all just outlines and silhouette. But then of course this person stands right in front. Couldn't believe it. And then when he moved away, I think the tram came. So they moved away. So because you can see here, I have literally only 30 seconds to a minute to sketch someone. You have to sketch really small and cut all the details out. You can always add them in afterwards after they've moved away. She's a bit hard to see here in the camera, but there was a lady sitting right on the other side and I thought, well, if someone's sitting, they're not going to move as easily as someone standing. So I sketched her and got her in quite well. So I sketched her in quickly and I was really happy with that. Then there was this cute couple standing here against the pole and I thought that'd be a great sketch to do. But then the tram came and blocked them. and then all the people came and walked in front, so I was just trying to, while I had the time, guess some main shapes, and I hoped that when the tram moved they'd be still there. And they were, but then they weren't again. 2 more quick sketches and I've done another 12. I settled in to sketch this next guy in front of me, and I'm pretty sure he saw me, and he comes around to have a little look. And so I changed and I decided to sketch the other person there on the right, and I thought maybe he'll come back, so I stopped sketching and I sketched this other guy. And then what do you know, that guy comes walking back. Maybe he does want to be sketched, and he comes and he poses very nicely for me. So I've got the whole pose leaning against the pole, arms crossed, and his legs in front of him like that. It's really nice. So thank you. So I'm on a bit of a roll here, and now I've finished 12 more sketches. But my concentration was starting to wane and my hand was getting sore, so I thought, I better finish up here and move somewhere else, have a bit of food on the way, and I might gain back some energy. On the way to Hyde Park, I found this bus stop. I thought, great, all these people just standing there, I'm going to sketch them. But then the bus came and took them all away, so I went into the park and I looked around for a spot. I found this fountain, but everyone was just walking past, so I didn't have anyone still there. I went around the corner and I found this spot on a wall, and there was someone reading their book. So perfect opportunity. So you can see here I'm using black to shade in some of the areas just to help break up the form. That's a very good idea if you're sketching simply like this. It helps also to draw your eye into things like the face, if you have some of those contrasting areas. I turned to my right here because there are 2 guys here talking together, and I thought I could sketch them. It's so funny sketching people and listening to what they're saying. There's so many different conversations that people walk past, and because you're in the moment and you're looking at people and observing, you're also taking in all the sounds and conversations. It's really, really interesting and quite funny sometimes listening to everybody's different conversations. So I was starting to feel like this is a great spot because people are stopped here. They're a bit slower, they're not rushing off to work or catching a tram, and they're reading their books and having a bit of a lunchtime break. But this isn't the best spot. I'm about to find my favourite spot of the whole trip. So this little spot here was like a gold mine of people sketching. The reason is because just there in front of me is a chessboard, and there are lots of people here watching the game of chess, and you could tell that people from their office towers were coming down, walking around Hyde Park, and when they see the chess they'll wander over and have a little look. And this was so perfect because people would come over and watch for about 5 minutes, and when they would leave, I'd finish sketching them, someone else would replace them. It was quite funny seeing people coming and standing in different poses. It was like they were posing for me. It was so perfect. So I was really happy here because I wasn't sure if I was going to finish 100 sketches if I had to find people who were walking or waiting at the bus stop. But this spot was so great. You can see here we've got old gentlemen watching the game, people who knew each other for a long time, it looked like, and they might come here every day. And then there were people who were dressed up. They just come with their sandwiches, just come down for a walk. They were interested in chess and seeing what was happening. And then there were tourists who would walk past and take a few photos. So it was great. I really enjoyed this. These 2 guys here were leaning back watching people walk past, and I thought, great, I'll sketch those, they won't be moving. But just as I thought that, they jumped up and walked away. And that's just what happens when you're sketching people in public. So I just kept rotating around from my spot where I could see the chess on the right, and I found people in the park, or when I couldn't find any more people there, I turned back to the chess. So here's a lady here holding her baby with a pram, and that was a really lovely pose to do, especially like with the arm, how she was holding her arm on the side of the bench and had her feet very relaxingly. Right, with those 2 pages done, I'm up to 91. I was sketching there for over an hour, so I thought I'd better move again. And just above this area was the fountain area, and some more tourists had come than there were before, so I thought I would sit here on this side of this footpath. Very awkward position with my feet crossed in front of me and my bag on my lap. I totally don't recommend sitting like this because your legs really get so stiff. And so if you've got a little chair that you can fold up in your bag, I recommend something like that, which you can whip out, sit on the grass, and not have to sit like 50 meters away on a bench somewhere. And there was a guy playing the guitar over there on the left, and it created a really nice atmosphere to the whole place, and a beautiful cathedral in the background. So I enjoyed sketching him. He wasn't going to move, so I did a lot more detailed and made sure all the shapes were a bit more correct. But I was feeling very uncomfortable by this time. I was feeling a lot more tired. I've been sketching for about 3 or 4 hours, and I was trying my best to get through this to get to 100. I was very determined that I wasn't going to fall short after all this time. So yeah, I enjoyed listening to his music and sketching here though. So that's 98 now, so 2 more to go. But once I got started on this page, I just thought I'd finish it off, see how many I could get. So there was a few nice people here standing, so I decided to sketch the whole page. So there you go, there's 106 sketches that I've done. Really happy. So if you want to get into people sketching or even just sketching from photos, doing this kind of exercise really helps with your line work and your observation skills. Even if you're not happy with the actual sketches, the process is really, really valuable. So if you want to check out the hashtags, you can go onto Instagram and you can see everyone else's sketches from the last week that did this challenge. It was 3 o'clock, I finished sketching 100 people and I'm absolutely exhausted. So it was a pretty crazy time and I was so tired at the end of it, but I felt like I learned so much. So if any of you tried sketching people in public, I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below, and if you've got any tips that I may have missed there. And thank you to all my supporters on Patreon, really appreciate you supporting these videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.